Ho, drocking ho, deck the halls with boughs of thrill power and all that rubbish. Welcome, Earthlets, at this festive time of year to the 2000 AD Thrillcast, where we are casting our eyes back over the last 12 months and giving you recommendations about what we think have been the highlights of a pretty thrill-powered 2024. What's that I hear? It's either the crunch of snow on the roof as Father Christmas makes another stop on his deliveries, or the crunch of gears as another year grinds to a painful close. Either way, it's the perfect time to glance back over the past year and figure out our highlights from another year of 2000 AD Thrill Power. And what better company to make our way through the best of 2024 than Chloe Maville and Sam Thielman? If you've seen the Thrillcast before, you'll know Chloe as the journalist and critic behind the Gutter Review, as well as an occasional host of this very podcast and the sporter of some rather excellent 2000 AD tattoos. However, this is Sam's first time on the show. They're a reporter and critic based in New York, formerly of The Guardian, and I didn't know this, Comedy Central's sketch series, The President Show.
Short-lived, but good.
He's currently editor on Spencer Ackerman's newsletter Forever Wars and writes about comics and art for the New Yorker and Slate. Welcome, both of you, to the 2000 AD Thrillcast. It's wonderful to have you on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Always glad to be here.
Wonderful. So we've not done. I think we've not done one of these for a couple of years. Just kind of go back over the year, look at our favourite 2000 AD books, but also kind of beyond that as well. What's been our highlights of what's been a mixed year, if I'm honest. But Sam, how has your 2024 been?
It's been good, thank you. I have read. So this year I started working for the New York Times, actually doing their monthly comics column. And as we were discussing before we hit record, this has resulted in sort of a deluge of packages at my house, which makes my second grader very angry because none of them are for him. I've hoped that raising him around books will make him a big reader, and now he just resents the sight of books. It's not for me. It's another stupid book for your stupid work. I've enjoyed a shocking amount of stuff that I've read, but I've had to seek out a lot of smaller press stuff this year, which is a good exercise for me. I'm pretty firm in my belief that there are no flop eras in comics. There's always something. There's always something good, but sometimes you have to dig deeper, and so it's been a year of digging, and there's been some good stuff.
Wonderful. And Chloe, how are you?
Tired, Mike. Let's see. My year of 2024 reading has been a little all over the map in true fashion that I am wont to do. I have not read nearly as much contemporary comics as I probably should. Weirdly enough, aside from 2000 AD, which having a little weekly thing to flip through is kind of a joy, and is something that I feel like my brain can comfortably settle into and feel happy with. But there have been a couple of standouts outside of the galaxy's greatest comics. And they're all from, again, similar to Sam, they're all from smaller press. That's been the most enjoyable stuff.
Wonderful. Well, for the benefit of the listeners, what I've asked you both to do is to pick a couple of highlights from 2000 AD's year, and also one from some other publisher. Probably won't be that good.
Are there other publishers?
No, there are no other publishers. There is only Tharg. Just sometimes he's pretending to be someone else. Anyway, I was doing a panel at Thought Bubble, one of our talent search panels, and I did Borag Thung Earthlets, Tharg the Mighty, Splendid Verthrig. And there was just this point where I went, if no one in this room knows what I'm talking about, I sound like I'm having a stroke. Like someone call the emergency services. But that's that's how I'm paid to speak. But anyway, let's kick off with our best of 24. Sam, I'll come to you first. What's your first pick for a highlight of 2000 AD from this year?
My first pick is perhaps predictable. I was relieved to hear Chloe say she read a bunch of contemporary stuff from 2000 AD because I loved the archival stuff this year, and so I have the Kevin O'Neill Nemesis the Warlock Definitive Edition, Volume 1. In the U.S., a lot of the reprints we get are much smaller than the original trim size of the 2000 AD. Weekly and the magazine, and so it's just really cool to see this A in black and white and B just blown way up. So I'm delighted with this book.
Was this your first time encountering Nemesis?
Yes. So I had read The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, until I had to buy new copies of it. But I was really delighted with how much of his work seems consistent across the different writers he's working with. I was surprised, frankly, by so many commonalities in the sort of Pat Mills stuff and the Alan Moore stuff. Like he's a very distinctive artist, and he's sort of a UK equivalent of our Will Elder, I think, in that he's willing to put what Elder used to call chicken fat into, various different little pieces of the drawing, because it's on the one hand, it's not necessary. You can still, I think Elder said it's not necessary for the consumption of the chicken, but it makes the chicken taste good. And so it's all the little jokes, the signage, and the sight gags that are sort of going on 2, 3, 4 levels back on the page. And I was just delighted to see that in Nemesis as well. As the stuff I read in League and Martial Law, of course.
Because it's one of those books where it's kind of a litmus test. Are you going to get 2000 AD? Is this mentality the kind of thing that you? And so I'm fascinated. I mean, you lucky sod to be encountering a fresh Nemesis the Warlock.
Yes. Yeah.
Was it at all what you expected?
No, not at. I mean, I think it's so steeped in the culture of I guess the 80s when it was published, that it's and yet it's sci-fi, of course. So you have to both you have to interpret like Thatcher era Britain through like references that are like, puns or like sort of intentionally stupid jokes about politicians and just the general state of things. So it's funny to occasionally go, and I wish I could think of a specific example here, but it's funny to me to go back and read, archival, issues of the Guardian or the Telegraph and say, oh, now I get that. Now I finally understand the joke here on page 100 whatever of Nemesis. Yeah.
Wonderful. I mean, and that kind of the hardcovers that we've done with the archival books. Shout out to our designer Gemma Sheldrake, who did like the gold emboss design on the front.
It's so pretty, yeah, and the back too. It's very.
Oh, the whole thing's gorgeous.
Yeah,
wonderful. Chloe, I'm going to turn to you and ask what your first. And I only just noticed your T-shirt as well.
And you can get it on the 2000 AD web shop.
For those who can't see, it is a T-shirt that I have accidentally worn in meetings with external partners, to the point where my boss had to explain that although I am misanthropic, I'm not that misanthropic. It's the Johnny Alpha Because I Hate You T-shirt, which is available from 2080 web shop. Chloe, what is your first pick for the best of 24?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of piggyback on the archival stuff, because I will lose the other part of my job if I don't mention how much I love the beautiful Slain, the Horned God, that has just come out within the past couple of months. I know you have a copy of it, but it is easily one of the most beautiful reprints that I have seen in years. I mean, the print quality of everything, and again, I'm not trying to get flogged by Simon Bisley, who I have to talk to later. But I know when I was talking to you, Mike, when this was all starting to come together, the art team, the restoration team behind doing that project is, I mean, shout out, kudos, pats on the back, toasts, everything, because going layer by layer to restore all of that gorgeous color that Simon's known for using is worth every single bit of time that they spent on it, because you really can see how it was meant to be seen. And there is a reason why that being one of the most beloved, like fully painted comics is as beloved as it is. And it's because of reprints like this that are done so beautifully, bound so beautifully, and restored so beautifully. And I mean, Pat Mills' writing continues to be absolutely batshit insane, and and in the best way possible. Also part of the reason why Slain it continues to be so beloved. But yeah, I go through it every once in a while just to kind of sit in awe of how evergreen of a book it is, and that kind of puts the stamp on that.
The really striking thing was when we were at San Diego with Simon, he got to see the book because his comps hadn't arrived by then, and how he was shocked.
Yeah,
there were multiple pages where he's like, "That's how it looked when I painted it."
Yeah,
you know,
That's
and
so
I've never seen, like, this is the first time I've seen this artwork as it was. Since I actually did the page, which is incredible. You know, in the amount of jiggery pokery that had to be done to just kind of, you know, balance the layers so you could get that vibrance to it is incredible.
Yeah, and well, I mean, here's the thing: what didn't happen with this book was helping Simon's ego, because now every time we go to a show where these books are present, or somebody brings the book up to the table, he sits there for a good 5 minutes to flip through it and just goes, "Damn, I'm good." Like, it's, you know, well earned. But those just continue to fly off the shelves every time. And I mean, when you can impress the artist, like when the print quality can impress the artist, I mean, that's saying something.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, shout out to Joe Morgan and the reprographics team who put that together. It's absolutely fantastic. No, it's wonderful. Yeah, I've got one of the slipcase, one of the 3 volume slipcases. That's my retirement fund. Sat in the corner. Wonderful. So I'm going to do my first choice.
Yes.
So it's contemporary, but it's retro at the same time, and that's Rogue Trooper Blighty Valley.
Yes.
That was one of my other choices too.
Yeah.
I mean, I you know what? I should have checked what you two were going to choose.
Yeah.
But Garth Ennis and Patrick Goddard. I don't know if it's so. I noticed that an awful lot of readers have a particular image of Garth Ennis based on certain work. So, you know, the Boys, Crossed, you know, and Preacher and something. There's a certain bombast to his work. There's a certain kind of ickiness to his work as well. But I would describe this as the most Garth Ennis book ever. because it's 2000 AD, which he loves.
Yes.
But it's combining 2000 AD with his love of war. You know, so he gets to do the battle action stuff where he's playing around with the characters that inspired him when he was younger, but gets to do it in combine it with Rogue Trooper, which is fantastic. And what's been interesting is seeing people for whom this is their first Rogue Trooper.
Right.
I'm very jealous of those people. That's such a good Rogue Trooper to start off on.
It manages to serve as both an introduction to a classic universe and be doing something interesting and different than what we've done before, which is a hell of a balance to strike.
He's had such an interesting year. His stuff for Tharg's Marvel Comics and Tharg's AWA Comics has been good too, because he's played against type so hard in some of his things. He and Jason Burrows did Ribbon Queen, which I thought was a really complex and interesting and nuanced look at police violence, which is not something I expected from him. Having enjoyed his stuff on Punisher and so forth, it's always fun to watch his capacity to look at different aspects of New York, frankly, which is where he lives now, grow over the years, because Ribbon Queen is totally different from any other NYPD thing he's written, and then Babs is very funny. I don't know if you guys are reading that, but that's good too. And then as he goes back to battle action, and we'll get to my other similar pick in a minute, but that's it's been such a strange road as somebody who tries to kind of take in everything he does this year in particular.
He did he's doing a horror strip for Into the Darkness.
Yes, it's quite good.
Which is fantastic, and like you say, it's so against type, because it's such a character piece of contemporary New York.
It's almost a stage play. Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. It's almost a stage play. And I made the mistake of reading I think it was the second issue. And I'm not going to do any spoilers, but do go and check it. It's an anthology, so 2000 AD readers will like it. But I think I read the second installment just before going to sleep.
Oh no!
Oh,
yeah.
Stay.
Well, is that the one where? Is that the installment where he sort of has you believing that the thing he suggested is going to happen might not happen?
Yeah.
And then it does.
And then it does. and it happens like that.
Yeah.
And because all the other stuff, all the other stuff in from Darkness is great stuff.
Right.
Good horror, but it didn't necessarily unsettle me in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I read this episode and I was like, I can't sleep.
No. Well, it's set on the subway too. So in New York on the subway, I'm occasionally I hope nothing happens. I hope this trip to 14th Street turns out okay. Yeah.
So yes, Blighty Valley, which I haven't really gone into to explain. We just talked about Garth, but World War One and Rogue Trooper, and full of all the pathos and drama that Garth brings to his war stuff, and he seems to be having a wonderful time on it.
He's in his element.
Yeah, very much he is in his element. But Sam, what's your second 2000 AD pick?
My second 2000 AD pick is a little bit obscure because I was worried that I was going to pick something that y'all had picked too. But it's the Iron Fist, which is from the War Pictures Library. I'm a terrible Hugo Pratt superfan, and he's one of the most interesting sort of. He has one of the most interesting biographies of any any comics artist in the 20th century. He was his father was a soldier in Mussolini's military police and was captured in Ethiopia, and so he was detained in an Ethiopian prison camp where his dad died before he was deported back to Allied Venice, and then he worked at a little newspaper there. And after it, things, after things began to calm down, he decided he wanted to move to Buenos Aires to hang out with Dizzy Gillespie, because in the U.S. we weren't hospitable enough to black jazz musicians, and so he just said, I'm going to steal all of their archival photos of tanks and take them to this little socialist newspaper in Buenos Aires and go to jazz clubs, which he did. And then when things got hairy in Buenos Aires during the sort of rise of the what would become the junta, everybody was a Peronist. There were the fascist Peronists and the socialist Peronists. But as the conflict there heated up, he kind of said, "I've had enough of this. I'm going to go to the UK and draw war comics until it's time to do Corto Maltese." And these are they, and I love them so much. He's a master of just like flat blacks and repeated shapes, and then he's also really good at like drawing a tank from a weird angle. There's so much going on in this book that is like a total pleasure to look at, and that's without even getting into the great Howard Baker and Val Holding and Carney Allen, Carney Allen stories that are just sort of classic war material that is kind of happening in the midst of this almost Harvey Kurtzman like art. So yeah, I love that book. I'm delighted with it.
It's so weird that just in this big archive that we have, there's Hugo Pratt just doing his thing.
Yeah. Well, and in a really important moment for him too, in a moment when he's like graduated from doing these sci-fi strips in for Hora Cero, which is the big Argentinian. We'll call it a proto 2000 AD, and in between doing that and doing Corto Maltese, which he's most famous for in the 70s and 80s.
Wonderful. I mean, that's a great pick, and there's a few volumes of that as well.
Yes, this one is thicker than the others, which is why it's my favorite.
Excellent, Chloe. What's your second 2000 AD pick?
That was a really good pick. I have a Treasury pick, but I want to give a particular shout out, not to like a singular collected thing, but to a story in the Prague. Can I do that?
Oh, yes, I want to hear that.
Of course you can, and I think I suspect I know which one you're talking about.
I want you to guess. Can you tell me which one you think it is?
Well, I assume it's A Better World.
Yes, of course it is. Of course it is. Yeah, like anybody who has come within 2 words of any of my writing knows that I like completely bow and submit at the altar of Rob Williams, Arthur Wyatt, and Henry Flint as a team. Like this has been a really great year for Dread in general. If you ask me, it's just been fabulous. But like A Better World is just such a standout, and in the same way that like The Small House was a standout as well, like that whole series of stories, and this feels like kind of what they did with that, the heaviness of it, and really actually digging their heels in deep into what actually makes the judges tick from the inside, and just went harder with it, like and kind of continuing the forever ongoing theme of like the horrible, the cruelty of the judges and the deep-seated fascism and the inner machinations of like in the Dread universe what's considered a very otherwise mundane evil. And I think there's nobody that can do it better. Rob is an insanely talented writer with a rat king of ideas that he just continues to untangle and entertain everybody. Arthur is wonderful. I've gotten to talk to him a little bit, kind of in and out what he's thought about, kind of over the course of when that was being played with as an idea. And of course, Henry Flint is just the best to do it right now. I'm just putting it out there. I can never get enough Henry Flint ever. He does one of my favorite dreads to date, and that's saying something.
I mean, you're entirely right. It's one of those stories that makes the subtext text,
but not in a way that's
didactic
and heavy-handed. In a way that's it's played out in a way that works. Making text is usually incredibly dull, and it feels like I'm being spoon-fed. And with this, it feels like it's being shoved down my throat in a way that's oh, okay. I have to recover from what's just been given to me, instead of yeah, okay, I get it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. And the delightful thing is, if we do this same kind of episode next year, the collection's out in January, so we can include it in next year's festival.
We'll draw straws for who gets to do it, because it just sounds like the one to do.
That is an episode where I really am going to have to check what people selected.
That's such a cool thing about Dread generally, I think. I mean, this is your book too, Michael, is just about the sort of the way Dread just amps up all of these weird little home truths that we kind of try not to think about. I think that's what makes it a good Dread story. It always makes me laugh that DC, Boston, and New York are the same gigantic, they just the whole Acela corridor is just an undifferentiated mass. And there's so much of media culture in the U.S. is concentrated there that I often occasionally feel like I have to apologize when I go home to North Carolina to my family for reporting exclusively from Mega City 1. That's where it all is. Yeah.
One of the things I love about Dread is that they just concreted over the top of it.
Yes.
So not only is it these places, it's also on top of these places.
Yes. Yeah. It's I think that is John Wagner understanding something very fundamental about America. We're just going to tear it down and or not even bother to tear it down and put something new there. It's been 7 years. We're done.
Yeah, absolutely. So my second and final 2000 AD pick is the Misty Special.
Oh, yay.
For some reason, my tablet is extremely bright on the screen. So the Misty 2024 special, Gail Simone finally writing for the House of Tharg. After some many false starts over the years where we thought we'd managed to pin her down, finally she works with Misty. If those listening or watching haven't checked them out, we had a really great interview with Gail earlier this year. Also, we interviewed, just going back to Chloe's previous pick, we also interviewed Rob, Arthur, and Henry about A Better World. But the Misty special is just fantastic. Gail Simone, but the artwork throughout was just fantastic. And for me, trying to recapture the ethos of Misty has been probably the hardest thing ever since we started doing Misty specials. Just to kind of grab that slightly ethereal, slightly odd, slightly weird British feel to the horror. And Gail's managed to do it. Ali Fell's artwork is worth the price of admission alone.
Absolutely.
Never mind Corolla Borelli and Mariano Ignazzi, and of course Letty Wilson as well. And it's just, it's one of those specials that Marketing man. It's one of those specials that like earns the title of special.
Yeah.
You know, it really works, and the fact that Gail is so enamored with Misty as a concept, never mind a character, you know, bodes well for the future. And you
And
know,
it shows.
yeah, and we've got more coming in 2024, which
that's exciting.
is really exciting. So that very much recommended for anyone who good comics, horror, you know, fill your boots. Kind of thing.
I'm just thrilled to see so many specials and annuals coming back out. What a joy that is. Like, how fabulous is that? Seeing that they're like, because there was the 40 years of Scream thing, there was the Misty special, and then there was the yes that. like that there's going to be a proper annual again. I'm trying to so happy. Those are some of my favorite things.
Because I mean, Sam, do you know about the kind of?
I do. You know, even I understand that they're special. Like it's one of those things when I find them in. There's a sort of decrepit old warehouse about 30 blocks from my apartment, and the guy there just has stacks upon stacks of every kind of comic you can imagine, and they stick out. Those are the ones you have to make an appointment to go into the Koch Comics warehouse, and you go in, and it's a little bit grim, and there are sort of cats everywhere, and then comics, just stacks and stacks of comics and little bowls of cat food, and because of the what's that?
What's that? My dream place to be.
You know, I sure. It's a fun place to be, and because of their trim size, the 2000 AD annuals always. I'm like, oh, what's that? And then it'll there's like an Alan Moore story that goes all the way through to the Flyleaf in this one. Like they're just very cool. You can tell that they began at a time when color comics were kind of like an indulgence, because it's just a delight to see all of the colors and all of the, some Alan Davis pinup that has 5 different shades of green on it. Like they're really. I'm excited to see them too, and I am completely foreign to the culture. So, yeah.
Wonderful. So we've done our picks of 2000 AD, and because obviously Tharg the Mighty is in charge of everything, there are other comics publishers available. He permits them to operate.
I've heard rumors.
Yeah. So we're going to do one pick from outside of the House of Tharg for our favourites for 24. So Sam, what's kind of knocked your socks off this year?
I have to get my forklift out for this one. This is Sunday by Olivier Schrauen, which is one of my favorite things I've ever read ever. It's if you like James Joyce, or if you like Thomas Pynchon, there's just like it's all set. It is, the entire book takes place on Sunday between 12 o'clock between midnight on that day and 11:59 that evening, and the whole thing. I don't know. I'm going to turn on a lamp here so that we can get a little bit of a better view. But the very, very last page, we are counting down because the next day is our main character's birthday, and we get 3, 2, 1, and then black, because of course it's not Sunday anymore. It becomes Monday then. And most of it is narrated from, the whole thing is narrated by our hero, Tybalt. And, but because it's so sort of expansive, it doesn't all take place entirely within his apartment. Some of it takes place within his brain, and the weird things he is is sure are happening to the other characters that are definitely not happening to them. It's all printed on a risograph, so it's in these kind of shocking pinks and blues, and occasional yellows. He's Belgian, so there's a couple of there's at least one moment where he quotes an old Tintin comic in sort of a shocking way, and I was like, oh, well, I didn't. It's nice to see you be self-aware about that. Tintin has some problems, and I say that as someone who grew up reading Tintin and loves it. But oh yeah, here we go. No, he says, oh, maybe something terrible's happened to my girlfriend, and then he imagines that the terrible thing has resulted in this page. Which again may just be reading is completely white, but that may give you a sense of it. This is very clearly the cover of Tintin au Congo, which hasn't. It was like translated into English for about 10 seconds before they just said we don't want people reading that. So it deals with a lot of these really complex problems within like the history of comics, while being this sort of masterpiece about what goes on in your head when you're trying not to think about anything. So he's been putting it together for years. As you can see, it's quite hefty. But I'm just delighted that it came out this year, and I really loved it.
Fantastic. That sounds amazing.
It's really good.
Chloe, what's your pick?
My pick is one that's actually coming out relatively shortly. And it's an adaptation of RUR, which is obviously and I will butcher all of these names, deep apologies, but it's the story from 1921 by Carol Chapek. And it's yay, thanks.
Yeah, I was a big theater guy. That's correct.
And it's obviously where the term robot was coined, and it's this massive story about the morality of servitude and what we consider human and what that actually means. What does human actually mean, and what does the treatment of what we consider human actually mean? It's a massive moral quandary that's really, really heartbreaking and unfortunately very prescient right now. And the adaptation is printed through Rosarium Press by Katerina Kupova and Julia Novakova. Yes, Novakova, and it's really simple line work and just these really vibrant splashes of reds, blues, and yellows. Essentially, it's a pretty limited color palette, but it's all watercolor, and it is stunning. It is absolutely stunning. And as a fan of the original story, to begin with, seeing it adapted in a way that is almost too soft for its subject matter makes it hit that much harder. And I cannot recommend it enough. After the dabbling of things that I've kind of read throughout the year and had to review and things like that, this is the one that has truly just completely stuck out in my head as being like, oh yeah, no, I'm thinking about this book and about what that story actually means weeks after reading it. So that's mine.
I didn't know about that one. I'm really excited to read it now. That sounds great.
Well, that's great, because I'm excited about Sunday, so we're just trading. We're trading.
Good.
I do like the fact that Sam and I both know about Roston's Universal Robots because we did theatre when we were
younger.
Nerds,
yes, huge nerds.
No, even worse, I did theatre and media.
Oh, I did musical theatre, which is very bad.
Now I can get to point at you and go, nerd.
You can. I've been singing along to Wicked all weekend. My wife is about to kill me. Honey, did you see this TikTok with Ariana Grande getting interviewed by the polygraph ones? Yeah. Okay. I showed you that
one. Wonderful.
What's your pick, Mike?
Yeah.
My pick. Similarly to Sam, I need some kind of crane to lift it up. This is a salient lesson in how comics will break your bank, and also how they're a bit of a drug. This is the first volume.
Oh my God!
Of Ron Space Knight. Now, this is the original Marvel years by Bill Mantello and Buscema, and when I can't remember. I saw a post on Blue Sky, I think, that said this was coming out, like in 2023, at the beginning of 2023 or something like that, and I just dropped a line to my comic book store, OK Comics, and said, "Oh, I really like that. Can you order it?" I didn't know how much this was going to be, and they just ordered it for me. So the bill, when this came out at the beginning of this year, the bill came through, and I was like,
the exchange rate's not good anymore either. I know how much that cost. I'm not gonna out you on the podcast, but yeah,
this was one of the "how deep is your love" moments.
Yes.
I mean, I felt having ordered it, I felt obliged to. I'm not one of those people who just orders stuff from a comic book store and then never picks it up.
No.
So I don't necessarily regret it. in that it's a beautiful thing.
Right.
It was just a bit of a shock, but I picked up the first issue of Rom Space Knight. In a French newsagent's while on holiday with my family in Normandy in some godforsaken part of the 80s. And it was American comics used to be ballast for ships.
This is already the most posh Rom Space Knight anecdote anyone's ever told. You don't have to rub it in.
I mean, it's worth pointing out we were very poor at the time. Like a foreign holiday was a ferry ride to Normandy.
Oh.
And, but yeah, it was like issue one of this, like bound up with a bunch of other comics with string. It was incredibly French, and I never read another issue of it. Was totally in love with it. Didn't even know it was a toy. And it's just that's, to me, that's pure Americana right there.
Yes.
Where it's a bit like Transformers. Like Transformers, the toys were great, but the comic book was better.
And the covers to #1 of both Transformers and Rom are by like all-time great artists.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's just, Sal Buscema, I once randomly, on the way back from San Diego one year, I was on the plane and I sat next to this guy who was talking about the gated community that he lived in. And he said, "Why are you in the States?" I said, "Well, I'm here for San Diego Comic Con." "Oh, yeah, one of my neighbors is comic book artist. Well, he used to be a comic book artist. He retired." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah." And then slowly but surely, I realized he was talking about Sal Buscema.
No big deal.
Yeah, to him, it was just Sal.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the old Italian guy. Yeah.
But yeah, that
so good.
That cover. I mean, so sorry to the people listening to this rather than watching it, but yeah, you're missing out. It's just great, and
it's Frank Miller, right?
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah,
and it's just it's one of those series that I have a lot of affection for, and then rereading it, I'm like, this is that kind of Stan Lee Excelsior voice, and just everything about it is fantastic. But that was my pick. I realised that we could wax lyrical about our picks for many hours in all likelihood, but I won't subject our listeners to this. Thank you so much, Chloe and Sam. I hope those listening and watching have discovered something new, or something that either they agree with or that they want to pick up. And if anybody wants further recommendations for the best of 2024, if you download the 2000 AD app, there is a reading list on there, which details some of the best titles that we brought out this year. But yeah, thank you so much. That was absolutely wonderful. I mean, it's not easy to pick the best
Yeah.
when it's
Easy to
2000
narrow
AD. I mean, I'm contractually obliged to.
Yes. Yeah. And you have a shorter list to pick from, I think.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we could just we can just make it all the best of 2000. Really, all the 2000 AD publications are the best.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. I mean, that's the message to take away is you should go
Yes.
away and buy all of it.
Buy all the 2000 AD comics.
Just paint some broad swaths with that one.
Very much so. Very much so. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, and I hope that you have a very restful, if possible, festive break over the next few weeks.
Thank you very, very
Thank you,
much.
Mike. You too.
Yeah, this has been fun.
Well, a huge thank you to Chloe and to Sam for taking us through their favourites of the past 12 months. Hope you found either confirmation of your excellent taste or some recommendations for things to pick up to enjoy over the festive break. Now, this will be the last episode of the 2080 Thrilcast for 2024. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in since we relaunched back in February. We do keep spreading the word about the Galaxy's Greatest Podcast, but also big things ahead. So on the 15th of January, the 2080 Thrilcast will be reborn into a new form. There'll be a little announcement come the new year as to what form that will take, but do make sure you tune in on the 15th to discover what devious plans we have in store for 2025. But until then, I hope you all have an excellent and thrill-powered and gaffle-bet festive period and new year, however you choose to spend it. And we shall see you in just a few weeks' time for the new form of the 2000 AD Thrillcast. Have a very happy Christmas and a very enjoyable New Year, Earthlets. Splundig Verthrig.